Hi everybody, it's Keren here from tuppencecolored.co.uk and thank you very much for joining me. This is what I've got for you today. This is my contribution for the brand new Inspiring Blog Hop Challenge, and if you want to know more about it, then just hop onto my blog. You can get there from the link in the details box below and it will tell you all about it. The theme for today is Sparkle, Shimmer and Shine, which is easy for you to say. I've made a rather blingy card, and if you stay with me I'll show you how I put it all together. Here's what I'm going to be using today. My card base is a piece of lemon lime twist, and I've cut it to 11.5 by 4 and I've scored and folded it at 5 3/4. The background of my card is a piece of thick whisper white. There's the back of it, and I've used the starch technique with my brushos, and I used Prussian blue and yellow. Now what you do for this technique is you take your piece of card and you spray it with laundry starch. Yeah, the cheap stuff is fine, the stuff you get in the discount store is absolutely fine, okay? And it acts as a medium for the brushos. So once you've got your card well sprayed with the starch, you just tap in your brusho powders, and I would say don't use more than 3. 2 is fine. And then you take a piece of scrunched up cling film and you press it over the top of your card, and then you just kind of smush it around until you've got it how you like it. Put it on one side for about half an hour, and after that you can take the cling film away and you can let it finish drying, and you wind up with this kind of pattern effect, I suppose. The starch gives it a light texture and is very slightly glossy. You know, it's just a little bit sort of a satin effect, and it's very pretty. So I'm going to be using that. I'm going to be using a scrap of the I think we're calling it Myth and Magic. Yeah, Myths and Magic glimmer paper. Now I would have said that this was lemon lime twist, but we're actually calling it light green, and there are 3 colours in the pack. There's light green, turquoise and iridescent, and it's super pretty. I have a piece of window sheet, and I have a scrap of dapper denim for die cutting, and I am going to be die cutting using these dies, which are the Celebrate You thinlets, and these are in this year's Celebration. Here they are on page 17. Now they're a level 2 reward. Okay, so to get these, your order needs to come to £90 or more before postage and packaging, but then you can get them for absolutely free. And I thought they were going to be you know, quite small and dainty. I thought they were going to be more in the size of the stamps, so I was really surprised when they arrived, and they're actually quite substantial. You know, they're a good size of die, so very pleased with getting those for no money. I'm going to stamp using Dragonfly Dreams and Basic Black Archival, and what I've done is I've taken one of the uninked stamping spots and I have put my basic black reinker and put some of that onto there, so now I have a little mini basic black, which is a lot easier to use if you're using a stamp platform. And if you have a stamp platform, I do recommend that you use it with this particular stamp set, okay, which is Dragonfly Dreams, and I used that stamp there to create the dragonfly, and we'll talk a bit more about it when I come to put the card together. And I've also got, rolling around on my table here, my clear Wink of Stella. So, and I almost forgot to tell you that I'm going to be using some of my stamping blends as well. So I have light Old Olive, light Night of Navy, and dark Bermuda Bay. So that this video doesn't get to be too long, I've already stamped my my dragonfly image using my basic black archival onto my piece of window sheet here. I've got a bit of white card underneath so that you can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to start colouring in with my blends in just a moment. But before I do, I've got a couple of tips about stamping onto window sheet or onto acetate generally. The first thing I would say is choose the right ink. So it needs to be something that isn't water-based. So archival is fine. Our archival is great, something like Stays On, but something that something that isn't water-based, okay, because it will just wipe right off. The second thing I would say is that if you've got a stamping platform, and I would definitely use it, particularly if the image that you're using is a photopolymer stamp like this one is. And if it is a photopolymer stamp, make sure that you cushion it well. The reason for using a stamping platform is if you actually miss a bit, you can go back over it, and also your stamping platform will hold everything in place, and the stamp is not likely to slip. All right, so I think those would be my top tips for stamping onto acetate. But the third one is, if you do stamp and it goes wrong, you smear it, you just get a little bit of solvent onto some paper towel or some tissue, and you just wipe it off and start again. So it is very forgiving, okay? So and you know, just keep trying with it. It is a little bit daunting, it's a little bit scary, because when you're stamping onto acetate, it's not the cheapest medium in the world, you know, it's not super expensive, but it's not something that you want to just throw away. But it is quite forgiving. You can rub it out and start again. Okay, so having bored you for a couple of minutes on the subject of stamping on acetate, here is my image, and I know that my ink is on this side. I can feel it, it's slightly rough, okay? Because I'm going to be using an alcohol-based marker, I do not want the alcohol-based marker and my archival ink to come into contact. So I'm colouring on the reverse, all right? And I'm going to start with my light old olive, and I'm just going to kind of get most of that. You know, and if you're looking closely, you can see a bit there where the stamping didn't happen too well. I'm not stressing about it, and these bits here are where I was trying out the colours, because I'm going to fussy cut all of this out. So I'm not too bothered. Okay, so now my light night of navy, I'm just going to give this flashes of colour here and there. And you know what, there's no rules. I think I've actually seen a dragonfly in real life, I think about twice in my life. And they are amazing things, because they just kind of hover, they're just there. And when they move super quick. And the first time I saw one, I was quite a small child. I think I must have been about 7 or 8. And I was playing by a brook, which was near to where we lived, and all of a sudden there was this dragonfly, and it looked like something from outer space. It was just amazing, and I screamed and I ran, because it absolutely terrified me at the time. And now I think, well, why was I so silly? It was just a dragonfly. But it was unearthly, it really was. Okay. So I'm just going to come back in now with my light old olive blends, and I'm just doing what it says on the tin and just blending. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to give that a few minutes for the ink to dry, and then I'm going to fussy cut that out. I'm going to take my pieces of card and glimmer paper over to the Big Shot in a moment and do some die cutting. I'm going to be using my precision plate, because this die in particular is quite delicate and quite detailed, and this is glimmer paper, so it's glitter, and it's always tricky to get a good die cut with glitter, because it is quite tough. I've got a couple of tips before I go over there. First one is, if you don't have a precision plate, and you may not even have a big shot, you may be using a different kind of cutting machine, which doesn't offer a precision plate, then you can always use the old tumble dryer sheet and wax paper or baking paper kind of trick with it, okay? And there are plenty of videos on that around. I've done one myself quite a long time ago. It's one of my earliest videos, in fact, but I'll put a link below and you can go and see how that works out. I'm going to put this piece of card, I'm going to cut it down to fit if I have to, and I'm going to put it through that way, not that way, okay? Because this way puts a bit less stress on the die, because it kind of all goes through at the same time, and you're not putting a lot of pressure on a tiny bit of die. All right, so I'm going to go away and do that, and then I'll be back. I want my dragonfly and my die cut word amazing to have a bit more bling. So I've got my clear Wink of Stella pen, and I'm just going all the way over the top of that piece of card. And I've got a bit of scrap paper underneath, so I'm not really worried. Now the other thing I could have done, if I'd wanted to, was to cover it all with Wink of Stella first and then die cut it, but that way I would have been glittering up a lot of pieces that I didn't really need, and that would have felt like a waste. Okay, but you know, you do it however suits you. Now with my dragonfly, I've coloured onto the back of the window sheet and fussy cut it out. I'm going to put my Wink of Stella onto the other side, because this is more of a water base and it won't react with the archival ink. I'm going to put it all together now, so I'm going to start with my background piece, and I'm going to be using a liquid adhesive for this. One, because I like using liquid adhesive, it's nice and friendly and it allows me to move things around if I don't get them in exactly the right place, but also because this card has been treated with starch and brushos and goodness knows what else. It's slightly warped, so by putting a liquid adhesive on there, that's going to make sure that it's sticking down to its background really well. Now I didn't give a measurement for this piece of card when I started, and I did think that I'd cut it to my usual 3 3/4 by 5.5, but it actually looks like I've cut it to 3 3/4 to 5 1/4. So for that very reason, I've positioned it onto my card background with a broader piece at the bottom, all right? Because that way, that helps your eye to sort of look into the card, and it makes it look more balanced somehow. Okay, so if ever you've got, you're in that position where your mat is too short for your background card, always place it with the broader bit at the bottom. Okay, it's a little layout tip for you there. Okay, so here is my dragonfly, and I've gone and curled its wings up a little bit. It's still a little bit damp in places from the Wink of Stella, so I'm going to be very careful how I handle it. And I've just curved the wings up a little bit. I'm not sure whether I just said that. If I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. It's been a long week. And now the thing about acetate is it is see-through. Okay, that's why we use it. It's the nature of the beast. That's my next glue dot. Just going to put a couple of these, and I'm placing them where I've stamped. Okay, so yeah, they will be slightly visible, but they're not going to be kind of in your face glaring at you. Okay, so where am I going to put my little dragonfly? Let me get my other pieces in before I press everything down, make sure I've got room for everything. So around about there, maybe down a little bit. What do you think? About there? That look good? Take my hand away. Yeah, I think you're right. Around about there. Okay, so I'm just going to press down onto those glue dots, and there is my dragonfly. So now, next word is amazing. So I'm going to put a bit of my liquid adhesive on the back of my hand. I could use a sheet of plastic, or you could sponge it on. I've gone on record as saying I don't have much luck with the sponging technique. Maybe that works if you're an organised crafter, not a mucky one like me. We had a kind of I belong to a team of Stampin' Up demonstrators. When you join Stampin' Up, you join a team, and my team, we had before Christmas, we had a kind of a virtual awards event done through Facebook, and I won messiest crafter. And so I'm taking that as an accolade. I should, if they'd had one for the most, crafter least able to do a straight line, I think I would have been in with a shout for that one as well. Perhaps I'll suggest that as a category next year. Okay, going to redo that. Let's put that down. Okay, there comes a point where I'm going to have to say, do you know what? That's it. Leave it there, Keren. There's a good girl. Okay. Now this one, it's a little bit broader. Got a bit more space to play with, so I'm not going to dab that one on the back of my hand. The back of the hand trick, by the way, if you've got sensitive skin, well, you know without me telling you, don't you? If your skin's sensitive, don't do it. Okay, but in that case, you could put your adhesive on a little bit of plastic, or you could wear a rubber glove, or a vinyl glove, whatever kind of glove you have. Actually, if that's not stuck down, I think I may kind of intertwine that a little bit, I think. Okay. And, do you know what, there comes a point when you have to say, step away from the card, and I think this is it. Sparkly, shimmery and shiny card. And I've had that song from Moana going around my head all the time that I've been putting this one together, so I don't know if I've given you an earworm now, sorry. But that is it for today, and I do thank you very much for joining me. I'd love it if you came back and saw me again, because I will be posting more soon. But for now, bye bye.